Okay, last, I don't know, lecture, practice, whatever you want to call it. So I've got on the left here the same dictionary site that we had before. On the right, there's this great website called Syri, SYRI dot AC. So Syriac, but with a dot between the I and the A. And they have all kinds of different writers. And so I'm in the Narsai portion of this, and they have lots and lots of digitized stuff from Narsai. And they have different editions, like these. This is the patriarchal edition. This is the Mingana edition. Basically all of his works. This is great. This was very, very useful to me in my translation, in my work for the Narsai volume that's coming out very soon. So I figured we'd practice a little bit of Narsai just because I find him really readable and really like beautiful as a writer. So what do I want to do? One of my favorite things by him, so I'm going to find it. Yeah, let's do this. This is a really famous piece, and this is actually used in the Chaldean and Assyrian liturgy during Ba'utha. So this is on the Ba'utha is a 3-day kind of period of penance and fasting that commemorates Jonah the prophet visiting Nineveh. And the third day of those 3 days, there are prayers that are taken from Narsai, specifically from this Memra, which is a metrical sermon. So this is a good example of Syriac poetry. Memra, so this is saying it's the 16th Memra, but it's only the 16th in this collection. Sraya. Memra b'solma wa ba'utha unaya maran brahmek penni al audek qabr sultan don't worry about that. These are probably not written by Narsai, these little, like this responsory. His composition begins right here. And what they did when they were putting together the prayers of Ba'utha is they took this sermon, this Memra, and they cut it into sort of chapters or portions, and they set them to various melodies. And if you're familiar with the Ba'utha prayers, you might recognize some of these. And I'll point out, we'll see if we can even get to the first Qari'an, we'll see how long we'll get there. Yeah, it starts right here, Sa'ar Tewel. So this is famously sort of known as Sa'ar Tewel, but the Memra actually begins here, El Alaha. So let me read it. And what I'd like to do is I'm going to read maybe a couple of stanzas so that you can hear the rhythm of the poetry, the sort of the beat of it, just so you can kind of get a sense of it. And I find it very, very enjoyable to read. So maybe you will too. El alaha shma' ba'uthan dashmi alach وبن برحمك شئلث نوشا دمبا ستبه شبيع بحناني حاوى حبخ أخدم عادت لا نهل بسن أدناشا بعوذ إيذيك عطر من كل بثحبث جزخ لسني قوثا لا نثمسكن نوجر نوشا أمنا خولا جبر علم سمختو قانخ بتقبد حيلخ دهامز دعزع من قش يوثد حش وشيذه. Okay, so I don't know if I want to translate all of this. I kind of want to start. Well, let's start from the beginning. Why not? So, what's Narsai doing? El alaha. Shma' ba'uthan dashmi'a lach. Okay. El alaha. El is just, he's transliterating again. Oh, look, the editor is telling us where it is in the Hodra, in the prayer book of the church. Anyway, El alaha is God. Allah, is God. El is just this very, very old ancient Semitic name for God is El. So, El, God. So, God. Shma' ba'uthan. Shma', the root of Shma', let's look it up. Shma'. Right. Switch the keyboard. Shma'. Shma' is to hear. Okay. What form is this? Well, it could mean he hears, but the same form, because ayah is a guttural, it could also be this vowel is used for the imperative. So whereas in some other verbs, you would expect a u, qtal, an o for a qtal, with third gutturals, so a and including resh, it uses this vowel instead. That's in some of the chapters that we didn't go over in Robinson. So God, God, hear. It's addressing God and it's asking him to hear. Shma. What is it asking him to hear? Ba'uthan. What is so our ba'uthan? So our ba'utha. Ba'utha is a supplication. I'm not going to look up every word because I don't want to do this all day. Shma ba'uthan. Hear our begging. Dashmi'a lach. What's dashmi? So here our begging. Da, our begging that. Shmi'a lach. Shmi'a. What's going on with shmi'a? Well, look at the root. The root is shin mim eh, which is what we just looked up. So it has something to do with hearing. What about this though? Shmi'a. This yod in the middle, you already know this, we've gone over it. This makes it into a passive something. So this looks like it's making shma into a passive participle that's being used as an adjective. Look at shmi'a. So ba'utha is feminine, ba'utha shmi'a. So this is the absolute state of the participle, dashmi'a. So what does it mean? Hear our begging that is heard, shmi'a lach, to you. Okay, so we're asking God to hear our begging. Upanna brahmek, she'elath noshan, dampasat ba. Okay, let's see. Upanna. This is another imperative. Pna is to answer. Brahmek, answer in your something plural, right? Rahmek. So aik is the second set of endings on a noun. Rahme, what's rahma? Rahma can mean friend, rahma, but rahma means mercy. So in your mercies, plural, in your mercies, which is a very common way of speaking, mercies. So and answer, in your mercies, she'leth noshan. She'leth noshan. She'leth. She'elta denotion. This is a construct state. This is the something of our something. So let's look up she'elta. Shin, elep, lemeth, tau. She'elta, a request. So the construct state of she'elta is she'leth. So the request of noshan, our soul. So answer in your mercies the request of our soul. Dampasat ba. Oh, what's going on here? That mpasat. This is a very tricky verb here. Dampasat ba. This tau at the end, so it's you did something. So it's past tense you. The request of our soul that you somethinged ba in her. Ba is probably referring to sha'alta, so that you did something to our request. So let's look up this root. Mim pe simkath. It's very rare that a root starts with mim. But let's look it up just for fun. Nope, there's nothing. So now we have a problem. So this meme is not part of the root. That means the meme is part of some kind of participle or something like that is going on here. So let's look up has. Has. Mappas. The up'al passive. No, that's not a up'al because there's no vowel on the meme. So let's look at pas. Allowed, permitted. Okay, that you. So maybe it's just doing this Oh, so that means this is not past tense. This mapis at. Mapis at. So this is a present participle with at. So it's basically a present tense. Answer in your mercies the request of our soul that you permit it. That you permit. You don't have to translate you permit it, that you permit, which you permit. Why am I going so slowly and kind of peeling apart each word? I want to show you what it takes to. I've translated this many, many times, this particular piece. So, but I want to go real slow just to show you what goes on in a translator's head as they're working, how often you need to refer to the dictionary and so on. It is at the beginning especially, it's a very slow and painstaking process. Do this though, do the work of one word at a time and trying to remember, you got to look up what the conjugation is and what that ending means. Eventually, you'll just be able to read it, maybe not as well as you read it like English or another language, but you'll be able to read it pretty well without every word going to a dictionary. You'll learn these words as you go. شبيع بحنانة حاوى حبخ أخدم عادت. شبيع بحنانة. Let's look up shpa, why not? So look, you already can tell that the yod in shpia is not part of the root. We just saw here shmi'a, that yod between the second and third radical means a passive. You're doing a passive adjective here. And this is the absolute state masculine, shpia. Shpa means to overflow. Shpia means overflowing. Let's see if it even tells us. Sometimes it'll tell us what the passive participle is. Yeah, participle adjective shpia, abundant, copious. So it means overflowing. Shpia b'hanane, overflowing in hanane, in his pity. His ba hanane. So in his pity. So overflowing in his pity. This is addressing God. Oh, overflowing in his pity. Hawa hubbach. I'm just going to translate some of these. Hawa is show, is a imperative. It's a weak root. So hawa, show hubbach, your love. Ach, like. Dam'at, like. Dam'ad at. Let's look up ma'ad. Let's see if that gives us anything. Probably not because of the meme, right? Ma'ad. To stagger? I don't think that makes sense. Let's just look up ad. Ad wa'ad, to fix a place. Maybe that's what's going on here. Dam'ad, as you, well, let's see. There it is. Okay. Here's a little trick. So the daleth is not part of the root because it's like that. The meme is not part of the root. That makes it a participle. Ma'ad at, so it's you present tense doing something. What's left for the root? Just these two. Again, we have a two-letter root. What do you do with a two-letter root? Sometimes you can just look up ad, but that's not going to, none of these make sense. As you weeded, as you fixed a place, no. Sometimes there'll be a hidden alep at the end. That doesn't quite work. Here's the trick. Sometimes there's a wow in the middle. Odd. That's called a hollow verb. You learned it in Chaldean. There are hollow verbs in Syriac too. If you want to look up a hollow verb, so if you see a two-letter root and you think it might be a hollow verb, put a wow in the middle and look it up. So odd, not used in the pa'al. So again, it's annoying. This thing that they put it under doesn't actually exist. Ad ayyid is what exists. Ayyid, to accustom, habituate. Ma'ayyid is the passive participle. Anyway, that's what we have. So ach dam'ad. So as is your custom, as is your habit. So overflowing in his mercy, show your love as dam'ad at, as is your habit, as is your custom. لا نهل به سن أدناشا بعوض إيذيك. Okay. Dla means lest. That, not. Nahel. What's going on with nahel? This is another tough one. Nahel. The noon is probably not part of the root, but let's look it up anyway. Nope, nothing. What could nahel be? So, well, there's a vowel on it. Maybe it's a causative of hel. To praise? Let's see. Let's look up this. Hel. Ap'el is ahel. There you go. Ahel, nahel. So the noon is making it the imperfect, either we or he. La nahel be. Well, we know it's he because here's the subject. San adnasha, the hater of man. So lest the hater of man, nahel be. What is nahel be? To be derided. So I think this is actually incomplete. So this means deride, to deride. So lest the hater of man deride it. Deride what? Be ba'awad idek. So this be is pointing to ba'awad idek. So there's two beths here. Be, lest he deride what? Awad idek. What is this? This is a construct. Awada, work. Idek, awada idek. Awad idek. The work of your hands. Idek, plural ending. So why are we asking God to show his love? Because if he doesn't, the hater of man, which is the devil, will mock and deride the work of his hands. So we're asking God to save us for his glory. It's a kind of unselfish way to ask for his help. Attir min kul, thahbith gazzach, lasni quthan. Attir, attira, means rich. Min kul, richer than all. So, oh, richer than all, we are addressing God. Thah, open. Beth gazach, Bethad gazach, the house of your gaza, of your treasury. I'm not looking all these up again. I don't want to make this 3 hours long. Open the house of your treasury, lesniquthan, to our sniqutha, our neediness. So he's wealthy, we're needy, we're poor. Dla nith maskan, unawgar naushan am nachola. This is cute. Dla, lest, lots of lests in Narsai. That not. Nith meskan. Well, the nith is not part of the root. What could be the root? The meme, well, here's the thing. That meme, if it's part of a conjugation, you'd expect it all the way back here. So this meme might actually be part of the root. Let's look up meme, simkath, kap, noon. Let's see if noon is part of the root. And there it is. So meskin, sekin, is the probable root of meskin. So you can look up sekin. It doesn't really exist, but they're saying it might be some theoretical root of meskin. Meskin is to make poor. And then if you go to the ith meskan, to grow poor or weak. So lest nith meskan, he grows weak. Who's growing weak though? We don't have a subject for this verb. So you have to look later. So again, the verb is coming first, and you have to look later. Well, who's growing poor? Unogar. Oh, this is a tough one. Nogar. Well, the noon is probably not part of the root because that's again nithmesk. It's probably referring to the same subject. So he and he are doing something. Nogar. What could the root of? Well, these two are definitely part of the root. What about this? Wow. Well, this is a weak verb. And again, if you took the Chaldean class, you know that a lot of times weak letters can turn into each other. I mean, let's see. I actually can't think of I can think of one or two verbs that start with a wow, but I don't think this starts with a wow. Nope, there's no ugar. But you can put another one in there. You can put another weak uh, letter because they can transform into each other. Let's try aggar. Here you go. So aggar, iggar, to hire. Ith, agar, to be hired. Ap'el, ogar, here it is. Ogar, nogar. Nogar, he hires out or receives hire. So lest he becomes poor and he hires out or receives hire, so we have to go into work, like kind of go into indentured slavery. Still, we don't have a subject. Who's doing this? Notion, our soul. So why are we asking God to open his treasury to our neediness? Because if he doesn't, our soul will become impoverished and hire itself out, amnachola, with nachola. Let's look up nachola. Nachola. Crafty, wily. So this is an adjective being used as a noun with the wily one, the crafty one, the deceitful one. So we're going to have to sell ourselves to the devil if God doesn't share his graces with us, his mercies with us. Gabbar alme, smoch tuqanach, btuqpad haylach. Gabbar alme. This is the construct state. Gabbara d'alme. Warrior or great one or mighty one of the worlds. Mighty one of the ages. We're addressing God, Almighty One of the ages. Smoch tuqanach. Tuqpa haylach. Lots of words to look up here. Smoch. So this is an imperative, right? Qtal. Smoch. Let's look up smach. 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 To stay, sustain. Oh, that's nice. Okay. Sustain. Tuqanach. Sustain your tuqana. Let's look up tuqana. Tuqana. Your work, your construction, your structure, thing made, formed, your handiwork. Oh, that's nice, handiwork. Sustain your handiwork. Tuqpa. Let's look up tuqpa. Tuqpa. Tuqpa, force. So sustain. So the Almighty One of ages, sustain your handiwork. Tuqpa, with the force or with the power. Haylach, of your power. With the force of your power. Daha, ha means behold or lo. For behold, deleth is for behold, mizda'za. That's a funny sounding word. Mizda'za. Min qashyuth and hashu shede. So the meme is probably not part of the root. Zda'za. What is going on with zda'za? Well, remember, in the passive, the ith of the ith qattal, when there's a zain, the tau turns into a deleth. So this is actually part of the conjugation. This makes it passive. So it's a passive participle, present participle. So what's the root? Zain a, zain a. So this is called a geminate, I think, where it's two of the same letters. It's two letters doubled. So the root here is za'za. Let's look up za'za. Za. Here it is. Za'za, the pelpel conjugation of zu' to shake. So we could actually look up zu' if we wanted more, but shake is probably good enough. So for lo, Mizda'za. It is shaken. We can just make this passive. If you want to really be annoying, you can go on, not annoying. If you want to really be thorough, you can look up zu. It'll give you Mizda'za. For lo, it is shaken. What's it? Tuqanach. Your handiwork is shaken. Min qashyutha, from or by the difficulty. Qashyutha. Idhashe ushede. The difficulty of hashe, the passions. Hashe means sufferings or passions. U shede, and demons. We just saw this word a few chapters ago. Ushede. Ethia damlen. Shmeya u'ar'a min ethuthe. Ethia. Eth is being. Ethia really just means O being. O being, damlen shmeya u'ar'a. O being that. Mlen, mla is to fill. Mlen is filled, is a passive participle. And it's plural, mlen, the nun at the end. O being that they are filled. Who's filled? Shmeya u'ar'a. O being that heaven and earth are filled min ethuthe, from or by his ethutha, his existence. So ethia is, I translate ethia as being. Ethutha is a abstraction. Utha, we learned that back in Chaldean class, is an abstraction when you put utha at the end of something. So beingness or existence. So heaven and earth are filled from God's existence. Mlin solyanach, this is an object ending. So mli is the imperative. Fill, mlin, fill us. Mlin solyanach, fill us your will. It's kind of fill us with your will. Unith qaddashban, this is interesting. What's the root here? Qaddish is to hallow or sanctify. So fill us with your will, and nithqaddash ban, and it will be sanctified, right? This is the passive imperfect. Nithqaddash. And may it be hallowed, may it be sanctified in us. What? What are we talking about? Again, the subject is at the end here. Shmach Qaddisha. Your name holy, your holy name. Adjective here comes after the noun, even after this pronoun. And so fill us with your will, and let and may your holy name be hallowed in us. So he's referring to the Our Father here, obviously. Okay. How long have I been going? About a half an hour. So I guess that's enough. So this Narsai piece is really nice. It's a good one to practice with. It's actually not one of his easier ones. There's actually some easier memra. You can go on Syriac and it'll click on Narsai or any of the other fathers, read through. I would strongly suggest starting with something you're familiar with, like the Bible. From there, if you go to the Hodra has a lot of very kind of simple, straightforward pieces, like especially the Onyatha. They're meant to sort of be easily digestible for people. Those are the places I would recommend going from here if you want to continue your studies. I hope you find this language as beautiful as I do. I'm very much in love with it and really enjoy translating, which maybe sounds weird where you're at, but if you do the work and suffer the way maybe you feel like you're suffering now and memorizing all this stuff, you can get to the point where it's just an exquisite kind of joy to be able to read through and translate some of this stuff. So good luck. I guess I'll pray for you and you pray for me, and we'll see you when I see you. Peace out.